Lazar. Thank you for joining me for tutorial number 4. So for tutorial number 4, I really wanted to talk about the relationship between the inner thighs and the lower back, and the function of the hips and the legs in the hips with often what's going on in the lower back. And I'm not going to do a lot of talking about anatomy today, but I am going to show you 3 different tools that can help you really reduce tension in that lower back. And the thing that you need to do to help you reduce tension in the lower back, namely, is to strengthen the deep front line of the body and to create more elasticity and fluidity in the myofascial meridians and in the body structure as a whole. So without getting into too many nitty-gritty details, look, we could spend hours and hours and hours on the anatomy, but I really want you to have something to walk away with today. That's more important than knowing where your ischial tuberosities are, right? And for the record, your ischial tuberosities are your sits bones. They're the 2 bony bones at the very bottom of your pelvis. Those are your ischial tuberosities. So sometimes it makes sense to go into detail with the anatomy, and other times it makes more sense to take the anatomy and just apply practical applications, because at the end of the day what we're going to use are those practical applications. Knowing that our sits bones are called ischial tuberosities doesn't really do a lot to further our Pilates practice. Okay, it's good to have that information, but it's really what we do with our body and do with the information that makes the bigger impact. So if you love anatomy and you want to dig into this, we can absolutely talk about this in your next session. But I want to leave you today with 3 practical applications to help you relieve tension in your lower back and maybe relieve tension that you didn't know you had in the inner thighs. So let's talk about posture first of all. So a lot of times what I see is tight low backs. When we have a tight low back, we're typically we are anteriorly tilted, okay? So that just means that the pelvis is dropped forward. This is an anterior tilt. This is a posterior tilt, okay? And you can think posterior is when your pelvis is dropping down behind you, and behind you is posterior, in front of you is anterior. Anterior is where your hip bones are pushing forward, and it's like you've got a bushy squirrel tail that's just all out and fluffy, okay? So the problem with an anterior tilt, and that is typically my default in my body as well, is that I have a tendency to kind of hang out here. You see that a lot in pregnant clients. You also see that a lot in men with large bellies. You see that with dancers. All kinds of different people out there will be prone toward an anterior tilt for a variety of different reasons. If we're in this position where the back is overly shortened and the front is overly lengthened, can you see that in my silhouette? And sometimes what makes sense is not to look at the body like, get in like here. It's more to step back and go, okay, what do I see in the silhouette? That tells you so much, rather than kind of, hello. So I'm going to look at my low back, and what I see is that this curve is a little shorter and tighter. This curve is a little more open, right? You can see my belly hanging out. Okay, I'm just hanging out in my posture. I'm not holding myself up. I'm doing my lazy normal posture. All right, so what I would need to do is to show this low back some length. And in order to do that, we have to obviously engage and shorten what's in front. So if I inhale and relax, and then exhale, and I activate my belly up, do you see how that corrects that instantly? I can correct that with breath alone. Sorry, I'm getting notifications. Okay, so letting that low back relax, inhaling, see my belly expand. If I'm breathing down into my belly, exhale. If I pull my belly in and I actively lengthen my tailbone down, now you see, if I move my hands out of the way, you can see I'm a lot straighter, and there's much less extreme curvature in the lower back. Okay, so really simple. That's thing number 1. Use your breath to find activation in your front line and create more length in your back line. Easy peasy. You can do it anywhere. No one has to know you're doing it. You can inhale and exhale through your nose, so it's not so obvious. But that's really a quick and dirty way to level the pelvis front to back, right? So if you tend to be tipped this way, you need to level your pelvis by bringing that tailbone down a little bit. And I'm staying very straight on my legs. So that's number one, just do it with breath. Remember, this is really important. I see a lot of people trying to do this. You cannot engage on the inhale when you do that. That's not serving you. So you need to inhale and relax. Let the breath go down and fill you up. When you exhale, push the air out from the bottom up, okay? Inhale, you make space. Exhale, you engage to push that air out of your body, all right? That's Pilates breathing, okay? Do we sometimes do movement on the inhale? Yes, like when we're on the reformer, we inhale and press out with our feet on the foot bar, right? We exhale to come in. Why do we do it that way? We do it that way, at least in the Fletcher lineage, because as we're pressing out, what's happening? We're getting longer, right? We're finding length in the body. So we need to work for that space. So we should also let the lungs expand and work for that space. So we're inhaling, and then as we come in and we exhale, our goal is then to maintain that space, not to collapse, right? Well, what I see sometimes is when people start is they're inhaling, they're creating space, and then everything falls to pot, okay? So your job is not to let it go on the inhale, quite the contrary. The inhale fills you up, the exhale keeps you up by lifting you up from the inside to the outside, okay? We don't want to try to tighten things down on the inhale because that's very counterintuitive to what the body's doing. Can we push on the inhale if we're holding a magic circle? Yes, and then what we do is we use that exhale to control the eccentric part of the movement or the reverse of the movement so that it doesn't turn into a collapse. Otherwise it turns into this. And that is horrible. It's horrible for the body. It's what you see a lot in gyms. You see people pushing with their legs and then they, right, drop it. It's like they're just in it to win it. So be in it to live in it, to embody it, not to win it. So that's just a really important thing to think about. When you inhale, find that space. When you exhale, pull up from below and feel your bones drop down, right? So the shoulders come down, the ribs come down, but the breath is what we're working to sustain us in that vertical posture. Okay, so just to review, to find that length in the low back, we inhale, let the belly go, exhale, pull it back in. You can also do that on hands and knees, so many different positions you can do that in. Second little takeaway, and I'm going to use my Franklin method balls here. So this is another one. You would do this maybe after you've done the first one. So if you want to do these in order, this is the order I would suggest you do them in. I'm going to take these balls. They're completely light. There's no weight to them. They're just filled with air. Okay, and they're not super pumped up. There's a little bit of give in them. I'm just going to tap my upper glutes and lower back. And as I do that, I'm just going to take very relaxed breaths. Okay, so I'm just going to get in there and I'll turn to the back so you can see. Okay, I always hear people go, oh, my lower back. Girlfriend, that's the top of your ass. That's not your low back. This right here, that's the top of your glute max. This is your lower back, okay? If this hurts, that's the top of your butt. And chances are it hurts because you've been sitting on it too long. Okay, so we got to get in there and move it around. So get in there and tap that. Tap that ass. Okay, I promise that's the last sexual reference. All right, so we're going to tap that. Woo, that's right. And you can go a little lower. That's it, good. We all get weird in America when we start working with the butt. Everyone gets a little bit weird. That Puritanism is just ingrained, isn't it? All right, so we just go and tap it. Tap it away. Tap, tap, tap. And then once you've done that for a little bit, and you stop, whew, there's some relaxation that happens there. And you start to feel like, ooh, okay, that's a little looser. There's a little more give there. I don't feel such tension there. So that's a manual technique to relieve tension there. If you're tapping that with just these light balls and it's painful, there's some stuff going on there, okay? And we need to deal with that because it should not be painful to give that a little wake up, all right? And then we can go to those outer hips, give them a little tap. Just doing little circles here. I'm kind of hitting the top of the glute max, going to glute med, going out here to glute min, coming back up and around, all right? Doing a little circle, and that should feel really good. And then keeping your breath engaged, lifting the chest up, lengthening that tailbone. Take a stroll around your room. Deep breaths. Notice if you feel a little freer in the pelvis. If you're like, okay, that's great, but I still got some issues there. We'll put those away. And we're going to go to the magic circle, sometimes referred to as the tragic circle. I have a lovely booklet here, which I highly recommend one of these. I've got two of them. I have several of these available for sale. Just going to give you a quick peek. It's a little circle to go. This is specifically Fletcher Pilates. Okay, and what's lovely about this is it tells you, if I could turn the page, good heavens, I got Butterfingers here. I'm trying to find the one with legs. Can you see how there's pictures both on this page though and this page? It gives you really specific instructions. Well, I'm not finding the one I'm looking for just yet. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, this is the one we're about to do. Pelvic tilt. Okay, press with pelvic tilt. It tells you how to breathe. It tells you what to do. It gives you a picture of where it is. So this is really great for homework. We've got arm exercises, we've got inner thigh exercises. So if you're looking for some basic instruction on what to do with the circle, this is a really great little booklet. So talk to me if you're interested in having one of those. So the magic circle, it helps you to create a sense of opposition in the body with your right and left hemispheres. Okay, so it helps your body create awareness, proprioception, strength, and stamina when you're relating right and left arm. We put it between our knees, right and left leg. We put it on our hips and put our arms around it, relate the arm to the body, okay? We can put it up and overhead, so we get more of an upper-lower hemisphere integration into that. A lot to be done with the circle. The exercise I'm going to feature right now, I'm going to drop this down just a little bit here, is, we're going to use the roller in just a minute. We're going to lay on our backs, okay? And I'm going to take the circle and I'm going to put it between my knees, right there near the end of the knee. Okay, if you've got slippery pants on, I've got super slippery pants on, you're just going to keep your hands up near that circle so it doesn't go flying. And eventually, as you get strong enough to manage that circle, you can put it there and leave it there, okay? Walk your feet out just a bit. Sometimes we start with our feet way up in our butt, and it's really hard to get your body stable there. So walk your feet a little further away. Good, I'm going to settle in with the breath, and then I'm going to bring my arms down once that circle is secure. Okay, so I'm going to press my arms down so they have a job. And I'm going to squeeze that circle and release. And if you're like, Eve, wait a minute. We were just talking about the lower back. Why are you going into the inner thighs? There is a massive relationship between your inner thighs and your lower back. And very, very often, I'm going to say 99.9% of the people I've worked with in my whole career as a teacher, if you've got lower back issues, your inner thighs are extremely weak. Okay, and if they're weak, they're tight. So we're just going to pump that circle slowly. Squeeze and exhale, slowly release. So we're going to inhale, squeeze. Exhale, slowly release. Inhale, squeeze. Exhale, slowly release. If you want to change the breath and try squeezing on the exhale, try squeezing on the exhale. See if you notice a difference. Exhale, squeeze. So change the breath. It's not going to kill you. Just try it. See what you notice is different. And then we're going to hold that midway, and we're going to pulse it. And what you will notice if you are doing this along with me is that you start to feel major work in your pelvic floor. You feel those inner thighs burning up like there is no tomorrow. And you might even be feeling a little bit of glutes. What you will hopefully also notice is that your outer hips and your low back are actually quite relaxed. Mat work is not the time to wear glasses. Actually very, very relaxed because you've engaged your inner line, your deep front line muscles and your inner lateral line muscles. And, sorry, not inner lateral line, your deep front line muscles and these inner thigh muscles is what I meant to say. And that takes a lot of pressure off the lower back, okay? So we're gonna let that go. Woo, I've been holding it. And you can really feel that. Whew. Okay, and then we've done the inside, so we also need to do the outside. So I'm gonna take the circle and just put it on the outside of my knees. You might have to bring your feet in a little closer. There's a sweet spot where you put that circle on those outer knees and it doesn't go popping off, okay? Also, you've gotta have a pretty decent circle if you're strong. If you have a flimsy little circle, there's a greater chance of breaking your circle. So the circle I got, these are super sturdy circles. If you're interested in having a circle at home, it's one of the best home tools you can have. I'm gonna press out on that circle right now, and I'm gonna plant my feet, and now I'm feeling a lot more of my outer thighs and hips, and I'm really able to stabilize my pelvis there. And then I release that slowly. So I'm gonna press on the inhale, and exhale, slowly release that. What I'm not doing is doing all the work on the press and then letting it go. No, we need to balance that work so that you're pressing out and you're controlling it back in. This is one of the most important exercises you can do. It really is. I cannot underemphasize that. Working these outer hips and working these inner thighs, it's huge for the health of your inner core and your inner structure. 3 more. And 2. And 1. Whew, and then you start feeling those butt muscles kick on. And the other thing you notice is, again, outer hips, low back are very relaxed. Okay, so we're going to take that circle away. So those were adduction and abduction exercises. Adduction is when we bring together. Abduction is when we press away. Is it okay to start with abduction and do adduction second? Sure. Again, try it. Notice what you feel. What feels better and why. I really recommend that we stop looking at right and wrong ways of movement and we really start to explore movement and we start to see what movements work for our bodies and what movements don't feel good and know why or ask why. So this month I'm really focusing on helping students to elevate their practice and get to a point where you're able to go into a group class and know what you can and can't do without having to stop doing something altogether. So if you're in a group class and you're not sure what to do, if you can't do the more advanced move, then you should do the move that came just before because every move in class is a progression. It's all built, all right? So follow the move that came before if you can't do the next one. Okay, getting back to being on topic here. I know I bounce around a little bit. Okay, so we've worked inner thighs and outer thighs. And we've done quite a few reps now. Hopefully you've done maybe 3 sets of 10 for the inner thighs, 3 sets of 10 on the outer thighs. If not, you're gonna do it at the end of this video, and then you can always rewatch the video. And then you're gonna take a walk around your room. So, what I like to do too is try a movement and then walk around the room, or get on your oob and test your balance again, and see what's changed. You want to notice, did you affect a change on your body? Do you feel like something is better after you've done something? That's always the goal, is that you feel a little more connected and a lot more relaxed. So, last thing today, rolling out the inner thighs. I know I've done this with quite a few of you in lessons before. So you're always seeing videos and people talking about rolling out that IT band. And the IT band is the iliotibial band on the outside of the leg, right? And we do need to always give that a lot of love. but we also need to roll out these inner thighs. So one of my favorite stretches, if my low back is feeling really tight and I'm just feeling kind of stuck in my hips, this is one of my go-tos, okay? And it's a surefire, as soon as I've done this and I stand up, that low back tension is just gone. So you're gonna line yourself up on the floor, right behind your roller, okay? And your roller is like about belly button height and it goes down almost to your feet. You're gonna bring your knee up on your roller, all right? And then you're gonna lean forward and press that inner thigh forward. So your front of your hip is pushing down toward the floor and you're seeing a crease happen right here. You're looking for that crease and then you're gonna pull that hip back. You're gonna press that leg forward. Feel that circle, or the roller roll up your inner thigh and come back. So we're getting a little bit of movement in the hip. We're also rolling out the inner thigh at the same time. So I'm not just laying here, I am in movement. And the goal is, if you want a stretch, you want the benefits of a stretch to last, you need to make it active. That's really better than a passive stretch. All right, and then I'm gonna move it up a little closer and do the same thing. So if you're wanting a little more stretch in the middle to upper inner thigh, you're gonna do it there. Couple more. Okay, now you want a more intense stretch, you stretch that leg out straight and you roll it. Now the problem is if you get too high, your foot's gonna hit the floor. So you gotta get back down by that knee and roll forward and back there. And you're really hitting that inner thigh above the knee. Don't roll over your knee joint though, that's not so good. And then if you want to do a little cross fibering is then we're gonna roll kind of forward and back on those muscles. That can be a little intense right down near the knee because we're getting into insertions and all that. Okay, and then I'm gonna slide my leg down the roller. And then I'm gonna bend my knee. And if you can reach for your foot and your knee is propped up on the roller, which is nice, and just pull that heel towards your butt. So we're also sneaking in a quadricep stretch here. All right? And deep breaths. And then release that foot. If you can't reach your foot with your hand, you could always put a strap on that foot and then pull it towards you gently. And my hip is off the floor. I'm just leaning forward into that hip. Head's being supported by that hand. Whew. And then maybe roll onto your back and just see how you feel. Okay? And then we're going to sit up and we'll do that same thing on the other side. Okay? So just make sure that you do both sides. And if you're feeling particularly tight on one side, I would start with that side, do the other side, and do the tight side again. Both start and end on that tight side. And then once you've done both sides, you're gonna get up and take a little walk. And I've done my right leg, haven't done my left leg. My right leg, I feel like, woof, I could push that floor out from under me. Left leg, still a little tight in the hip and in the glute. Hasn't gotten as much love. Okay, so to review, first thing to create length in the low back, decrease stress in the low back, is simply using our posture and our breath. I probably been decapitated in most of this video. There we go. Okay, so inhale, relax. Exhale, pull that belly in, lengthen the low back. Quick and easy, that's lesson number one. Remember to inhale to let go, create space. Exhale to engage, and you want to think of pushing that air out. It's like a geyser. Think of pushing the air out of your body so it comes out, all right? So that's lesson number one. Lesson number two, Franklin balls, tapping your bottom, those upper glutes. You can even get into the low back. Do you need to have balls? No, you could use the backs of your hands. You could use your fists gently. Very effective. Just use the flat side of your hand. If you use your knuckles, you might bruise yourself. So you can use the flat side of your hand. You don't need to have props. For the next one, you do have to have a circle. All right, if you want to do outer, you have to have the circle. So we did inner and outer. Between the knees, squeeze, and then outside of the knees, press out. Make sure that your ankles and feet are aligned with your knees. So you don't want to be knock-kneed, you don't want to be turned out and pigeon-toed. So you want to keep that parallel pressing in, parallel pressing out. And you should feel that work up the outer leg and up the inner leg. So we're getting into those muscles that are more on the lateral and medial sides of the body rather than the front or the back. And that helps to relieve pressure on the front and the back of the body, because the side muscles and the inner side muscles are really working to help hold the structure up. So if you think about just holding a structure up, if you only have two ends, right, that's a lot of pressure. But if you add other sides and you have more carrying the load of the structure, then architecturally you have a system that bears that load a lot more evenly. So if you just think of it simply like that, it makes a lot of sense. You know, if you're holding yourself up with just the front and the back of your body, and the side of your body and your inner thighs aren't really recruiting, they're not active, they're not engaged, they're not supple, then essentially those are like dead zones. They're shut off, they're not being utilized. And so your body is literally holding itself up from the front and the back exclusively. So we really want to get in, use our tools like our circles that really help us to bring the left and the right side of the body into a greater recruitment and alleviate that stress in the front and the back line of the body. And lastly, using your roller, not just to roll out the outer line of the leg, but also to roll out the inner line of the leg. You can use balls, you can use bands, so many ways to get creative in your stretch. Just try to remember to keep your stretches active and engaged, rather than just laying there and passively stretching. You won't see a lot of long-term effects from passive stretching, and you could potentially hurt yourself. So stick with gentle, flowing motion in your stretches. And I'll see you in tutorial 5. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please post your questions and comments. I love to see them.